there's a big principle. Like if you hang out with 5 losers, you're going to be the sixth loser. You hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the sixth millionaire.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Campfire Capitalism. I am your host, Desmond Dixon, and today there is no Heather, no Josh. You got me and an awesome guest, Mr. Eric Konovalov. What's up, Eric? Welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Desmond? It's so nice to be here with you, my man.
Oh, man, I'm so stoked because we're just going to be 2 sales guys on the pod talking about some amazing things. Before we hop in, let me just kind of give the audience a quick introduction of who you are, and we can kind of dive into, all the good stuff. So Eric is the author of B2B Sales Secrets. He's the host of Lead, Sell, Grow, the Human Experience podcast, and the founder of The Goal Guide, an organization focused on helping people achieve greater levels of success in their life, business, and relationships. Man, this is going to be a good one, guys. So, Eric, man, before we, kind of get into, any of the game, anything you want to share with the audience, just kind of give us an idea of who you are. Like, how did Mr. Eric become Mr. Eric? And like, what's your story, man? Like, give us a quick breakdown of your story.
All right, man, here it goes. So 10 years old, I was born in Russia, former USSR. Parents got out of there because communism is the opposite of what your podcast is about, and that's capitalism. And so we got the running, man. We're refugees from Russia back in 1989. So I was 9 when we left, lived in Austria, lived in Italy, finally ended up in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you want to toughen up a little kid from Russia, you move to Baltimore, Maryland, where he doesn't speak any English and is a minority in the neighborhood. And he gets tough very quick. So grew up in Baltimore. Right after high school, joined the Marine Corps, forward 8 years, and I was getting out. I went to my commanding officer. I said, "Sir, I've been here since high school. What do I do when I get out?" He's like, with all the bullshit you've sold me through the years, you should probably get into sales. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what sales is, but I'm going to get into it. And I got to selling copiers back in Baltimore, moved back, selling copiers, did really, really well. Did that for about 3 years, then moved on to Xerox, managed the team for Xerox for a little while. Then I got I got recruited by a smaller company to come run their sales team. And that's where everything changed for me, Desmond. Like when I got there to run their sales team, they were all older than me. They all outsold me. And like, it was a smaller company, but they all went to church together. They all know each other. It was like that, ran like that. So I would say, "Hey, let's go do this." And they'd be in the president's office asking why they need me in this company. Like, can't they just let me go? Right. So that was a humble experience. And I started thinking like, all right, well, it's not all of them. It's me. What is it about my leadership that's just not connecting? What am I doing wrong here? Got involved with learning about leadership through the John Maxwell program. And if you don't know who John Maxwell is, I mean, he's written over 100 books. He's got a, whole training and coaching curriculum that you can license from him. And that's what I did. So as I began to apply what I was learning through John Maxwell, my team started doing better. We went from $4 million a year company to $14.5 million a year company within 3 years. I took some of that learning and just started the Goal Guide, man. I realized my passion is really helping people understand and get clear on what their goals are. And then like a guide, I take them by the hand and guide them over there, man, together. So that's where I am.
Man, that's so cool. All right. So I have to unpack something here. So like, what was that spark or that shift in your leadership that cultivated the $4 million to $14 million jump in 3 years? Like, what was the spark? What was that aha moment, you think?
Yeah, first it was just connecting, right? I didn't connect. Like, people are not going to give you their hand until you give them your heart. And it was about making a connection. And the second I realized that each person is there for their own reasons, they're coming to work because they have their own dreams, their own goals, started learning about it, started become a person that's like, hey, I'm going to help you reach your goals. And we're going to do that through this company. But my job is to help you reach your goals. It's no longer to help the company reach their goals when I'm talking one-on-one. Ultimately, obviously, it's to help everybody reach their goals, including the company. But people don't care about that. People mostly just care about themselves. And so I realized that if I could become that second person who also cared about you and you felt it and I truly did care about you, then you'd perform better for me. Like I had a commanding officer, we would say Marines would charge hell with a water pistol for that guy. And then when you think about why, it's because when we had to be up at 5 a.m. doing just stupid stuff, he was there with us. He didn't send us without him leading first. And I'm like, okay, I got to become that type of leader that cares about his people, shows up, does the dirty stuff I want them to do. And then it all started changing.
Man, that's so cool. Like, there's some things I definitely like when I go out and recruit salespeople, and when I was, leading a sales team and leading people, I realized that you have to align the incentives, which is pretty much what you said. Like, you got to align like what they want with what the company wants, and you essentially do it together. It's almost like you grab their hand and you're going with them, right? Like, you're not pushing, like, you go do this. You're like, yo, we're going to, come on, man. Like, we got this, man. We got this together, right? And I'm going to help you win. They're going to win. The customer's going to win. We all going to win, right?
That's right.
And because sales guys, man, like, look, man, like, let's be honest. Sales guys love to make money, right? Like,
the good ones.
The good ones. Yeah, the good ones. Other ones maybe just want to, swipe.
They're raising skinny kids.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, dude, that landed big time. So let's talk about a little bit about like, okay, so you did this leadership. You kind of realized that you really love to, cultivate, train, and talk about leadership and sales. Like, talk to me about like, when did you become an author, man? Like, how did that come apart? And like, talk to me a little bit about your book and, the purpose of the book and what people can expect if they end up reading your book.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're in personal growth, right? I mean, you got to be to do what you're doing. And there's a big principle. Like, if you hang out with 5 losers, you're going to be the 6th loser. You hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th millionaire. And so as I was going through the John Maxwell program, there's this big component of helping people start their own training, coaching, and speaking business. So they train you on how to be a public speaker, how to be a coach. Like, there's a whole leadership coaching curriculum you go through, how to be a better leader. And then they also kind of give you this business in a box type of thing. And they say, hey, go start a mastermind group for free. And so I went out, I started a mastermind group for free. I got 10 business owners together to meet for 10 weeks on Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. This is while I was still director of sales. And so we did the mastermind group on John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership book. Well, everybody's company started doing better throughout these 10 weeks. This is before the Goal Guide existed. This is before I had a company. I was just a director of sales running a free mastermind group. And after that was done, 4 of those people that were in that group came to me and said, hey, how do I hire you to come into my company and do what you did here? And so that's where I got the idea to start the business. And I'm like, I don't know, pay me $3,000. And they're like, done. Come in $3,000 for 10 weeks. I undercharged, but whatever, But that's how the whole business idea started. And because I hung out with those types of people, I began to hang out with authors, and I began to hang out with podcast hosts and public speakers. And like, I had dinner with Les Brown, and it was just phenomenal. And when you're surrounded by that group of people, it's almost like you have to write a book. Like, there's always that little seed in me that's like, oh, I should write a book. But there's never been enough belief to water that seed and come to fruition. But once I began to hang out with those people, it was almost as if like, why am I the only one in this group? Why am I the 6th one and I don't have the book? And so it was just natural. I just started writing a book, and before I knew it, it was done. So you asked, what's the book about? Yeah, sorry. I kind of went off tangent a little bit, but the book, B2B Sales Secrets is really what I learned at Xerox. If I had to do it over again, each chapter could probably be its own book, because it's in 3 separate sections, right? So section number 1 is, how do you prepare for the day? Because the world needs you at your peak performance. And there are people that wake up in the morning and they got to be somewhere by 8 a.m. and their asses are getting out of bed at 7:15 and they're in a rush. They're reacting the rest of the day. So the first chapter is really, how do you prepare? How do you prepare mentally? How do you prepare for your schedule? What does it look like to have a good blueprint for success if you want to be in sales and an entrepreneur, by the way, because all of us are in sales. Second is everything from, that's the sales process, from cold calling to LinkedIn to knocking on doors to picking up the phone. Like there's scripts in the book that I've used, to first appointment, to follow up, to demo, proposing, closing. The whole sales process is section 2. And then the final third section is all about how do you build that rapport after you sell to the client? How do you continue to build that relationship? And how do you become a magnet for new business? Because how long do you want to cold call for, right? The best salespeople, if you do it right, you'll cold call maybe your first 1, 2, I'd say no more than 2 years. After that, if you truly treat your customers right, it's just going to be referrals. If you truly make the best connections that you can make, people will just send you business because they know you, like you, trust you, and you've done them right. And then afterwards, you got, if your sales cycle, like in a copier world, sales cycle is 3 to 5 years. Your clients are going to buy something new again. You're golden. So spend the first 3 years really cultivating your business. And then it's just repeat stuff and new referrals coming in. Man, so that's what that book helps you do.
Yeah, this is so sick because I can remember my first sales job and it took about 18 to 24 months of cold call, like going from like outbound. Like you still do some outbound because it's fun and the chase, you're good at it. It's just easy at that point, right? But it went from like all my business coming from outbound to you start networking. So you like, here's another part of the game that's super interesting. I think that'll be super valuable to the audience to compound what you said. Like you mentioned, connecting and networking. Yes, your clients can give you referrals, but there's also other people who serve similar clients. And if you, once again, surround yourself with the right people, their clients are probably going through a problem or have an issue that they can refer you to because they know you're an A player. Same thing with you, right? It's an abundant circle. Like I referred other people like in my circle, like, hey, man, you should check this guy out, right? For this problem. And it's just this vortex of everyone's like looking out for everyone on top of clients, right? So it's like compounding, right? You're compounding all these relationships.
100%. Can I share some with you, Desmond? Like, everybody's heard of Zig Ziglar's famous quote, right? Help enough other people achieve what they want, you'll get everything you want. But nobody really understands that. Even in networking, like when you sit down with someone for a coffee, they want to hear about what you do, but they really want to tell you about what they do. And they want to know what clients you have that you can refer them to. And so I remember selling copiers and, I had no sales experience whatsoever. I got into a BNI group, and in that group was a guy from ADP, Payroll Services. So me and him are having lunch and I'm like, well, what's the average deal size for you? And I think back then he told me it was like $120 a month. An average company for us, when they sign up with us, they're going to spend $129 a month for our services. I said, okay. Now I'm thinking in my world, all we do is leases. I'm like, so if I rolled in, let's call it, $2,000, right? If I rolled in $2 more thousand, their monthly payment on a copier would go up about $40 a month, roughly, back then. So I told the ADP guy, I said, listen, any client you go to, if you refer me and they buy from me, I will pay for 6 months of your services on their behalf. So now this guy is like, hold on, you're telling me I can go to my clients and tell them that they have no payments for 6 months because you're going to pick up the tab, especially if they need office equipment? Yes. You know how much business I got from that one guy? That's it. It's just about getting creative.
A lot.
A lot.
Oh man. Yeah, that landed, man. Like that's creating a win-win-win, right? The customers win.
Win. You got to ask that question. How do we make this a win-win-win? A win for this person, the customer, and me.
Yeah, the offer is so good that it's like you literally gave him an offer that aligned the incentives of everyone.
That's right.
Man, back to incentives, guys. I think that's going to be one of the themes, right? Incentives. Dude, this is sick, man. This got me like thinking. Just because, this is so sick, man, to bring up because you don't need to be the most knowledgeable person of your product. I think in sales, like, yes, you got to know your product, you got to know your company. However, you just got to be good at finding those answers and being creative enough and have the willpower to just put the pieces together and solve other people's problems, right? And I just want to tell a quick story real quick before we segue over, which I think will be funny. I think you'll love this. So right now I'm in Montenegro, right? And I'm climbing these like fortresses, like, Europe is old, man. Like so many like history is just everyone's conquering everyone. And I climbed this fortress up this mountain with my girl. And we get to the top. Halfway through, I met this lady, this old lady. She was carrying a cooler. She's like, "You want a water?" I'm like, "You know what? I'm good. I got it. I can make it." So I thought I was almost at the top, but I was only halfway, right? So she keeps carrying on. I get to the top. There's a big sign, like as soon as you walk in the doorway, that says cold drinks. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to need that water now, right? It's after an hour and a half of hiking up a mountain. So I'm like, okay, now I'm paying for this water. It was 5 times the amount if I got it beforehand, but I happily paid it, right? Yeah. And I look around, I'm taking a drink of this water and I'm looking around and I'm like, everyone's drinking water right now from this lady because she was at the right place at the right time. And I was more than willing to pay for her services, right? And I was like, man, that's marketing. Like if business owner and sales guys realize like you just got to get the right place at the right time. You showing up to a B&I event, you were showing up to the right place at the right time for people who are receptive to receive, offers to refer, right?
That's it.
Yeah. So I thought that was dope. So let's segue more into something I think is super powerful that I really love that you talked about specifically in the beginning of your book, which is like the preparation part. Being $1 million sales guy myself, I realized that preparation was probably the reason why I was really successful. And I'm super interested to kind of hear your take on like preparing and like the mindset part of a sales guy for all those entrepreneurs out there who have been relying on word of mouth and they're, they need new clients and they need to start doing outbound sales, or people who are business owners, people who want to be business owners want to start selling. Like, what is some of your methodology or your take that any takes you can give us on like preparing so that they can be super successful in sales?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's no different than preparing to build a house, right? I mean, can you imagine walking up to somebody, they're laying bricks and you're like, "What are you building?" They're like, "I don't know, I'm just laying bricks and we'll see what's going to happen at the end of it." No, they have a blueprint. They know how many bricks they're going to need. They know how many people they're going to need. They know how much it's going to cost them. They know everything to an inch. They literally have a blueprint of what is going to happen. So everything that's ever created that's beautiful is always created twice, once in our mind and then once in the physical world. Everything, the chair we sit in, those headphones you're wearing, the microphone I'm talking into, everything has been created twice, except for the salespeople's week. Because half the time they just wake up on Monday and they're like, "All right, I got these appointments and then I'll try to fill my time in between with something." And they don't know with what. And what I realized is that the successful ones really take their time to draw that blueprint out for the week on like Sunday night. So I would just Sunday evenings, and this was before kids, right? Later it changed, and Sunday evenings were my time to really understand what the week is about. Did research. Who do I want to contact that I've never talked to before? What appointments do I have? What do I know about these people? What should I know about these people? Who do we have in common? Where am I going to go? What areas am I going to be? Where are my appointments? Who also is there that I can cold call? And then I became more successful. I wasn't reactive. I wasn't trying to figure it out on the fly. I kind of had my week and everything went in my calendar. I set appointments with myself. So I think that's basic knowledge now. But I feel like so many salespeople still wake up and they just run out the door, don't have a plan. They don't have a clue of what they're doing. And they're just winging it. And then they get pissed off because their results aren't there. Hey, manager, I've done the training. I'm saying what you're telling me to say. But they're not really committed. They're not really committed. I mean, sales is a transfer of emotion, right? We've heard that before. Sales is a transfer of emotion. I think Zig might have said that, but he never said which emotion. He just said, you got to transfer your emotion. Well, the emotion that you have to transfer is the emotion of certainty. For someone to buy from you, they got to be certain that you're the right person, number one. Your product or service is the right product and service, number two. And your company is the right company, number three. If one of those are uncertain for them, like if they don't think you're the right person, but they're certain it's the right product and the right company, they'll buy it from somebody else. If they don't think it's your service, they won't buy the service. If they don't think it's your company, they'll go buy the same product somewhere else, right? So it's like, this is what we have to get really good at. And in order for us to be able to transfer the emotion of certainty, we really need to have to understand who is the person we're going to be dealing with ahead of time and what will make them feel certain. Do the research, know who you're talking to, understand where they are in their career before pitching. And most people don't. They just show up and they think they're good enough and they got their egos in front, leading the way.
Man, I think we have a lot in common because Sundays are my days, man. Yeah, man, that's fire. And you couldn't be more right when you said the word certainty, right? Like that is everything, right? Like everything. The salesperson has to be certain in himself. They have to be certain in the company. They have to be certain about who they're talking to. Like it's so three-dimensional. Like certainty 100%. Is everything. Everything. Like, I was so sales guys, man, like, look, man, like, would you let a surgeon do surgery on your wife or your mother if he had like, if he was like scratching his head looking at her x-rays and like,
I've never seen this before.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And how old is she again? Right. Yep. Or, you know what I mean? Like you would go get a second opinion real quick. Real quick. You're like, okay, let's go. Time to send us the bill. Okay, thank you. Get out of my life, right? And so, yeah, man, I 100% agree with the transfer of certainty. That's everything. And I think you said something super cool that I want to like unpack a little bit, make sure I'm clear on. Like, it sounded like you also talked about people confuse or sales guys confuse certainty with confidence. Right. Oh, I got this. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna crush this. But then they look like there's egg on their face sometimes, right? Like, or you could. I mean, because look, successful business owners, the guys who are really crushing it, dream clients, they can smell BS a mile away, man. I don't know. Like, they can like smell it, like a whiff of it, like real quick. Right?
That's right.
So, dude, that's so sick. So let's talk a little bit more about the mindset part, because I think that's kind of where we're like shifting into. Sure. So, talk to me a little bit about like how you used to talk to your guys about dealing with failure and also staying consistent, right? Because it's probably easy to start, but it's harder to stick with something, right? Either rejection or with habits or with these rituals that we're talking about. So like, how do you like, what is your take on like dealing with failure and rejection and things like that and staying consistent?
Man, you got to have a clear definition of what failure is. Like a no is not a failure. It's an ingredient for success, right? So when you shift, like I've seen young women that I hired as salespeople. I'm not just picking on women. I just have two in mind who have worked with personally that were crushed with no's. Like they would call somebody, hey, we're not interested, click. And they took it so personally. Like they said no to them. Like, this is a person that's never met you, doesn't know you, probably would hang out with you at the bar. They're not saying no to you. They're saying no to your product or service or offer. And you have no idea why. It might be because their best friend sells that stuff. We don't know. And so the best way to really combat that, especially in younger people, and all people, nobody likes rejection, is really to have that definition up front. We got to understand that if we were baking a success pie and you said, all right, Eric, I'm going to bake a success pie. What's the ingredients? The first freaking three things are going to be failure, no, and rejection. That's the pie. So like, if you know that ahead of time, like if you know that rejection is just a part of your success, you're going to see it slightly different. And the way you can look at it is like, all right, I got rejected here. Why? I thought this would be the perfect client. Here's why I thought this would. What did I say to them? if I had to do it again, what could I do differently? And it's really just reflecting on those experiences and then improving them every single time that will help us get better. So like as a leader, I would celebrate that. I'd encourage failure. Honestly, I'd encourage failure. I'd encourage trying something out of the box because I know how scary it is for a young person to walk into a door and talk to a stranger, into a door of a business, right? So picture this. Our whole life, we're taught, don't speak to strangers since we're young. In college, they're like, girls, be very careful. Don't get in the cars with strangers. Even if you don't go to college, high school, whatever. Through early 20s, we're like, don't talk to strangers. You get your ass out of that environment, get into a sales job. First thing they tell you, get out there and talk to all the strangers.
100 a day.
100 a day. Yeah. And it's not natural. It's like, and then you're walking up to a door and it says no soliciting on it. And it's like, it's scary. Like, listen, why would I come in here? They're specifically saying no soliciting. So you got to really, as a leader, handle those things on a front end. Make sure that your people, especially the younger ones that are coming out of college, coming out of high school, the younger ones with no experience really are prepped for that. So that when they do meet a rejection, when they do meet a no, they can handle it emotionally and mentally in a good way because they understand that, hey, this is just a process for success. So have a meeting on Friday during the day, right? And laugh it off like, hey, what's the worst thing that happened to you this week? How are you growing from that? What did you learn? What's the most embarrassing thing you did? And have everybody laugh with you. You know what I mean? Like, where'd you fail at? Where can we help you? Everybody wants to talk about successes. They're great. But we don't learn too much, right? Oh, Johnny sold $50,000 this week and Mary closed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. The guy that didn't sell shit and got rejected 17 times in a row is sitting there feeling like a failure. But that's the one person that's actually out there busting their butt. And we want to encourage that behavior because you know that every door is just going to get better and better and better if there's coaching and reflection at the end of every rejection. So like people tell you sales is a numbers game. I call bullshit on that because if nobody's reflecting and nobody is making adjustments, you can call 10,000 people and say the same messed up thing, and you're going to continue getting the same messed up result. So it's not a numbers game. It's an improvement game, being better than you were yesterday, constantly working on your craft, your talk track, your pitch, if you would. I don't like that term, but
I hate pitch. Yeah.
Huh?
I said I hate the term pitch as well, man.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent there, but it's you just got to really embrace it. You really do have to embrace it and mean it. Now, there's a difference if somebody didn't hit their quota because they're not making the calls because they're lacking. And if somebody didn't hit their quota because they are busting their ass, their skill set isn't that good, but they're working on it. You know, I know that like today I'm an expert at walking. But when I was 1 year old and I first started out, I kind of sucked. I would fall on my ass a few times, you know, and all of us are like that. And sales is just like that. You're going to crawl, you're going to walk, you're going to run, you're going to sprint. As long as you have somebody that believes in you, continues to coach you, helps you see where you're messing up and guides you, you know, then you're going to do great.
Yeah, man. Like always, like, first of all, never apologize for giving value, man. Like ever. Like you can drop in anytime and all of that was good stuff. Once again, a lot of this stuff definitely resonated. I was just like, you know, a little bit reflecting a little bit about, you know, everything that you just said. And I think there's also a super cool thing to unpack here, which is, this is good, man. This is good. You're gonna love this. So I can remember when I was a young sales pup, I used to confuse. I think one thing that gave me an edge is when I realized I used to confuse rejection with stalling, right? Like as in, oh, he's not available right now. He's not busy right now. And in my mind, when I took it personal, I was like, oh man, that's a definitely no. They don't want what I have. And then you just let the lead flow downriver, right? what switched it on for me, where it compounded. I'm a big fan of compounding. Man, this is a capitalism podcast. Compounding capitalism is in the same camp, right?
Great.
When things started compounding was when I started to put appointments with myself to follow with the people that said that they're not available at that time.
Good for you.
And if you keep knocking on that door, someone's going to eventually answer. And then, and if enough people answer, obviously, hopefully you have a shot. If you obviously like you said, keep refining your skills, get coaching, and get better, and be coachable. I think that's super important as well.
Yeah, and I would actually, there's so many different things you can do in those cases, like call really early, call really late on a different day, call from a different number, right? Like there's reach out on LinkedIn, pop in with some donuts. Like there's so much you can do. But people just kind of, they stick to their one way and they get into this box and they think, all right, the only way is to call them. I have, my schedule says follow up at 3 p.m. every single day. Well, that might be the time they're always busy. Have you tried 5:30 or 6 p.m. when everybody else is out of the office? Have you tried 7:30 in the morning on your way to work? Call them. See what happens. They'll appreciate it. Leave a message so when they come in, you got right to their voicemail instead of their receptionist.
Ooh, two things I want to unpack because we're in the flow, man. I love how you said call at weird times was something really savage I used to do. And I used to dude, I was a psycho sales guy in a way. I was like, I wanted to beat everyone. Like, I was like, I want to win. I want to win. I want to win. I used to wake up early in the morning. Like I used to be like one of those early risers, and I would pop emails at 5 o'clock in the morning, bro. 5 a.m. And I was like, it'll be all my emails for that. Emails to my company, people in my company, and emails to prospective clients or current clients. Because I knew psychologically, like, man, this dude don't mess around. Like I'm like they waking up to my emails, right? So that was like kind of a little edge that I used to do. And then something else pretty dope that that you talked about.
By the way, for those of you who are not early risers, you want that effect. Outlook actually has a thing where you could schedule the email to go out at 5 a.m. and it'll look exactly like you sent it at 5 a.m.
Dude, I did not know that at the time, man. I did not know that. It was like it was more for me than it was for them.
I got you. I'm actually I'm like a 3:15 wake up guy. So I don't have that's just the time I get up. We can unpack that if you want, but but I've sent emails out at that time too, and I definitely understand what you mean. People value that.
Yeah. And also I think it also gives you an edge too. Like I feel like it gets me like momentum because it's almost like, boom, I just did that. Now I'm ready for the next thing. Boom, I did that. By the time it's 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, you're like, man, I'm already like, I'm ahead of everyone. Right. Everybody. So you get that psychological edge. Right. And so then your conversations feel different too. Right.
Very
you know
true.
what I mean? Like it's
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I miss those days, man. But dude, this is so fun, man. So I wanted to unpack one last thing with you. And let's talk about a little bit about goals. I think that's like kind of where we are. I know we talked about, the preparation part. So let's talk about like the goals. So like, what are your, as salespeople, it's like you want to set stretchy goals, right? Or as business owners, entrepreneurs, we want to set like really high goals, but we also want to, set them in a way where we can also attain them. So like, what are some of your takes upon like, setting great goals and then like matching your routines to your goals? Like, what's your take on that, man?
I think goals are important. Dreams, vision, goals, super duper important. I don't believe in the SMART goals, like the smart way to set goals. You know what I mean? Where they say specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. I think that's what SMART stands for. Here's why I don't believe it, or I don't agree with it. So let's look at realistic, the R in SMART. See, majority of the population is average or below average. They're not people I want to be in the group with. So when you say realistic, whose reality are we talking about? Because like it was not realistic for the Wright brothers to create the airplane. Let me just put it to you this way, like in context. The Wright brothers made an airplane. There was never a design for an airplane. They had to fly it, but there was no flight school. Like they never learned to fly an airplane. All right. So now you picture these two knuckleheads. They're up in the air. And my man looks back. He's like, all right, bro, we got to land this. Did you learn that in school, how to land this? Nope. All right. We got to figure that out too. That's not realistic. Elon Musk, everything he does is not realistic. No one will tell you going to Mars is attainable. The guy wants to build colonies up there because he thinks the Earth is going to die and people will be living in Mars. So I subscribe to a slightly different concept. And I'm a big believer of like Think and Grow Rich. I studied that book. Like I didn't read the book. I studied that book probably like 4 or 5 times. As a matter of fact, my mentor, chapter 9 is a chapter on persistence. And I got together with my mentor in a study group. And he says, all right, before we start the study group, which will start in 2 weeks, I need you guys to read chapter 9 every day for 14 days is the chapter on persistence. I need you to really read it and understand it. So every freaking day I sat there. It was the chapter. I still remember it was about the McDonald's brothers and, how McDonald's got started and Ray Kroc. And I sat there every single day for 14 days, and he wanted to really emphasize the importance of persistence, which you're going to need in sales. You're going to need that in entrepreneurship and leadership and everything you do to be successful. So when we're talking about goal setting, I believe that ideas are energy. Everything is energy. Energy can never be created or destroyed, and energy always flows from a higher source to a lower source. That's why you got the big energy power plants, they go to the grids, they go to your house, they go to a plug, and you plug your lamp in and the light bulb lights up. It's always from a higher source to a lower source. So the question is, where does the idea come from? If ideas are energy and thoughts are energy, where do they come from? And they've never been created nor destroyed. That means that you've just became aware of it. And you're the type of person now who's aware of this idea. Now, if you're aware of that idea, you're the type of person who it's possible for. And the second you start believing that, then bam, that's the goal. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't care how but that's the goal. But a lot of people kill that idea very, very quickly because they look at their present circumstances. They say, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough whatever. I can't do that. I've never done that before. And it never comes to fruition. So I have a podcast. It's called Lead, Sell, Grow. If you would have looked at my goals sheet for 2016, 17, 18, and 19, every single year, my New Year's resolution said, start a podcast. And every single year, I came up with 10 reasons. This is how stupid I am. I came up with 10 reasons, not even realizing all I need is one reason not to do it. I had 10 until finally COVID hit. And I'm like sitting there. I'm like, all right, I think it's time to start this podcast. So being aware that if you have an idea, that idea came to you, you didn't design it, you didn't create that idea. And if it came to you, that means that you became aware of that idea. And it means whatever it is, it's possible for you. And so right there, you write it down right away, because that's the first step. That's no different than your emails at 5 a.m. I just did my first step. I wrote it down. Now it's real. Now it's from the ether on paper. Now I can start playing with that idea. And the first question is, what if it is possible for me? What if I can start that business? What if I can be the first one to graduate college? What if I can be the first millionaire in my family? What if, what? And then you start looking around, you say, well, why can't I? And you write all those down, and then you take that shit to court with yourself. Oh, I can't because I never graduated high school. Well, hold on. How many billionaires do I know that did not graduate high school? Is that truly going to, not graduating high school, does that really stop me from being a motivational speaker? I mean, Les Brown, I think, never graduated high school. Maybe he did. I don't know. But according to his stories, he wasn't a good student. Does it mean he's not going to be good at speaking? All right, so that's off the table. Why else can't I? Well, no one in my family has ever done it. all right, well, is that really going to stop me? And you really go one by one to get these thoughts out. Like Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it'll control our life and we will call it fate. And these idea killers, they happen on autopilot. We don't even know it. Like idea comes and boom, it's gone. Just we kill it instantly. So I became the type of person that's like, why not me? What if it works? And if it doesn't, at least I gave it a try. But what if it does? That's how I set my goals. I get an idea, I just write it down. Like what it starts off with, what do I want? And if you don't know what you want, then write down everything you don't want. Right? What don't I want? Well, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to rely on anybody else. I don't want to be dependent on a freaking paycheck. I don't want, and you make a list of that, and then you go and write out the opposite of that. Because chances are that's what you do want. And so you create a list of what you want, and then you start circling the things that are possible for you now. Like, what can I start doing the next 12 months? Like, what can I actually do out of this list in the next 12 months? And I think most people don't spend that time with themselves. See, I wake up at 3:15 in the morning so I can do that stuff, so I can spend the time with me, because by the time I get home from the gym at 7, my kids are up. That's their time. My wife is up. That's her time. After their school, after work, it's kids' time. It's family time. But when is it your time? And we got to create it. And then the other thing I want to talk to you about really quick is the word mindset. Like, people have this confusion, Desmond. They say, I got to get into this right mindset. Have you ever heard that? Mm-hmm. We got to get into the right mindset. It's mindset. You set your mind. Set it. What mindset do you want to be in? Just set it. Make a decision. Freaking decide today you're going to be happy. Decide today you're going to feel joy. Decide today you're going to come from a place of abundance. Decide today that you're the type of person that's going to handle fear. Make that decision early. Just decide and set your mind before any other thing happens. People forget we have that gift that we can do that at any given point, regardless of the circumstances outside. I'll give you a prime example. I have this book in front of me. I don't know if this will be on video or not.
This will be.
You see this book?
Yep. Joy.
The Book of Joy. It's written by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. I'm reading this book because I'm really interested in how do I constantly be in a state of joy? Because I know that we can't feel two emotions at the same time. You cannot feel joy and fear at the same time. So if we know that, and that's a scientific fact, then wouldn't you be better served just being in a state of joy? And if the answer is yes, then how much time are you taking on learning how to be in that state? Chances are 0. Because we want everything else to control us. See, I made a decision a long time ago. I'm the one responsible for my mindset because I said it. I'm going to wake up, and today I'm just going to say, I'm going to come to the world full of love, joy, and happiness. That's it. Bam, mindset is set. So somebody cuts me off. What happens at that point? I'm on my way to work. Bam, I get cut off. They slam on their brakes. It used to be middle fingers going up, me trying to race around them and cut them off and get out, try to fight people in the street. You know what it is now? Now it's, oh my God, they're really in a hurry. I hope they didn't have an emergency. I hope everything is safe, and I hope and pray that they get to wherever they're going safely. Hope they have a great day today because I'm in a good state right now. Mm. Wouldn't the world be a much better place if all of us showed up that way?
Man, it would be magical, man. I mean,
magical.
There's so much to unpack there, right? Like the level of awareness, to just be aware is a huge thing, right? Like obviously you're just ultra aware of all of this, right? Most of the people listen to this. Yeah, most of the people listen to this pod. Definitely, I feel like if they're listening to this pod, people listen to podcasts usually are in personal development. They have some level of consciousness and awareness and emotional intelligence. But dude, that was so good, man. That was so good. I got it. You got me fired up, dude. Like I'm ready to run through a wall right now.
Me too. Let's go.
Let's go, man. Let's get it. Right?
Yeah, you're the creator. That's what we forget. In sales, we forget it. In entrepreneurship, we forget it. You create it. Mm-hmm. Like so many salespeople, I don't do that yet because they haven't trained me on it. Well, have you been on YouTube? Have you checked? Have you Googled this? What are you doing? Are they the ones going to make your money for you? Like take control. Take control.
Dude, I love the take on, there was a lot of great takes, but what sparked I was like, man, I was fire was when you talked about the goal setting and the R sparked the like reasonable, like realistic. Man, to do it, realistic, to do. Yeah. To do like extraordinary thing, you have to be extraordinary, right? Like if you want to do things that are against the norm, if you don't want to, once again, be dependent on someone else giving you a paycheck, owning your time, or, if you don't want to be a slave to a system to a certain degree, right? Yeah. And you have to do something extraordinary. You have to do something different, right? And you can't base those decisions off of what ordinary people think or do, right?
Exactly.
Dude, man, I can think of all the times in which is why this lands, man. This is just reflection here on the pod to make this more, land. When I decided not to be a chemical engineer, everyone thought I was a freaking idiot. I went through 5 years of school and they're like, dude, you can go make 80 grand right now. Like, why are you going to go take 40K to go do sales? And I was like, no, I want to do something big, man. I want to own my time. I want to talk to people. I want to go to the dinners, the lunches. I want to do that. I want to be stuck in a lab all day. Like my parents, no offense, my dad. Like my dad was like, man, what are you doing, man? Like just go be an engineer. And then when I went into corporate, when it's corporate, Eric, I did it again. Like it was like they were like, dude, like what are you doing? Like you're gonna leave corporate, man. You have the car, you have all the things. So I was like, nah, I'm ready to do something else. I'm betting on myself, right? So a lot of you guys probably have stories like this. Listen to this, where you sometimes have to listen to yourself and do things differently, right? Like Eric said, write your goals down, and I like wargaming it out. Right? What's the worst that could happen? Right? Usually. And write it, okay, what would I do then if that happened? Then you realize it's not as bad as you think it would.
It's never as bad as you think it will be.
Not to sound like this the dystopian, but usually the worst things that happen are things you can never really see.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
They're the unexpected things. Right? It's not the things that you are conjuring up in your head about taking the next step, right?
Yeah.
Usually.
And if you really understood why you think the way you think, why you think what you think, why you believe what you believe, it's all programmed into you from a young age, from your parents' perspective. Do you know, how did your father grow up?
Super structured in the cornfields of Ohio, structured, essentially.
Farmer?
No, he wasn't a farmer, but he lived amongst the farmers.
And how, what was his parents' beliefs? What did he believe in?
I guess super Christian household. Really conservative, I guess. That's the best way to put it. So not taking a lot of risk, following the system of terms of work until you have enough money, go to church on Sundays, have dinner at 6 p.m. Right? The usual process. Yeah. Super.
Do you know how proud he would be based on his belief system if he could tell people my son is an engineer? What is it? Electrical engineer? What kind of engineer were you going to be? Chemical. Holy crap. Yeah. Can you imagine how proud that would be for him to be able to say that? Coming from that environment, to be a chemical engineer requires a lot of education, which he values, structure, right? Which he values. And that's his son. He raised you to be a chemical engineer, and that's a proud moment. And he's just not programmed to understand what it's like to be your own boss, to be an entrepreneur. I don't know your father. I have a client who's going through that. This guy, came from Syria, became top 1% in Herbalife. Like literally pulling in checks, I don't know, $20,000, just not doing anything. He doesn't have to do anything. 20 grand checks are just coming in. His dad is pissed. His dad, old school Syrian dude, like is telling them to go get a job, like a 9 to 5. Like you could have, because he went to school to be a banker. Dad is pissed that he's not a banker. Like pissed. And he's like, I keep fighting with my dad. He hired me as a coach because he doesn't know how to handle his dad. I'm like, I keep fighting with my father because he wants me to be a banker, but I make 10 times more than bankers are making at any given time. And it's like, you just, I think you just got to respect your parents, but understand that like their beliefs are different from what your beliefs are. And that's most people, right? People will take that 80K because they're short-sighted. They don't understand that you being your own boss, that 40K, that's the entry. But you can blow through 80 within 6 months, within 2 months, really, in the good sales environment. I mean, there's no cap, no limit. You're your own boss. People don't want to bet on themselves, Desmond. And you did that, man. You said, you know what? I'm betting on myself. I bet I can make that extra 40 fairly easily and some. And good for you. It's pretty cool.
Man, dude, I think we could have an entire episode on belief systems. I think that's its own thing around like belief systems and even like belief systems in sales as well with prospects and clients. But dude, this was awesome. So like real quick, how can our audience find you? If they want to get in touch with you, if they want to, using your services, what's the best way?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Eric Konovalov. I have a podcast called Lead, Sell, Grow. All that's pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, the Goal Guide. I think that's about it. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way if you want to talk to me professionally. Check out the podcast, join the Facebook group. The Facebook group is called Lead, Sell, Grow, the Human Experience Mastermind. And that's it, man. I'm everywhere on social media.
Boom. Definitely check out Eric's pod. The dude is on fire, man. This was an awesome episode. I really appreciate you for coming in and just giving us a ton of value and sharing some good stuff. So appreciate that.
I had a blast with you. Great conversation, man. Thank you guys for listening.
Boom. So guys, we made it to the end. Thank you for being amazing capitalists out there listening to our show. Don't forget to give us a rating or review, send us some comments. Hit those links at the bottom of the episode. And it was nice. Bye.
See you guys.